All right, so we're getting a little closer to another truth. We're getting extremely closer to another truth, another simulation. Well, not even a simulation, it's understanding the past simulation to understand the current simulation and then work from the current simulation to evolve it and use that platform to our benefit. Because you can't just go and cold turkey jump from one lily pad to another. There must be a transition point between each lily pad that you go to. And if you don't have the strength to jump from one lily pad to another, then it's no point. So you have to build up the strength, which is the understanding and the understanding and the lifestyle changes to go from one lily pad to another. Even though they're all kind of connected at the root level, the getting from each pad is like, it's a journey. And I've been on this journey. And it's a crazy journey. And so you must understand that the world is not what you think. Everything is based upon the microbiome, on all the different life forms that are in your microbiome. The viruses, the parasites, the protozoa, the proteins, the fungus and bacteria. And they all have their own specific jobs. They have been also compartmentalized and used as therapies, as ways to control animals, humans. I mean, when you hear about parasites, right, you think it's like a bad thing. Yeah, I mean, parasites can be used as a weapon against somebody, because if a person doesn't understand what the parasite is doing and they allow the parasites to replicate without any kind of regulation, then they take over. And that's where the movies come from. You know, when people are so full of parasites and you're watching somebody suffer being eaten out from the inside from a massive amount of parasites, like a tapeworm, like so many different ones that you hear about. I don't even go into it because I am squeamish around parasites and leeches and anything like that. But that's where these movies come from, is the fact that the assholes that developed us. We're in one giant assholes universe right now. Okay, it's not a bad thing, it's not a good thing, it is what it is. But they understood when you compartmentalize the life within the microbiome and then the life within the person's body, and you allow maybe too much fungus to grow, you allow too much viruses to grow, right, replicate, take over without some kind of regulation. So viruses, too many parasites to grow, protozoa, single-celled life forms, proteins, well, those are driven by different viral operating systems that are also make up the parasites. The fungus and bacteria are still little life forms, and everything is viral driven, and they reside in the wormholes of your gut. Like, that's what wormholes are when you think about time traveling, right? People are like, ooh, time travel. I think we can go travel from here to, Timbuktu, or here to Andromeda through a wormhole. But when you think about all the B cell and T cell memories that you hold within, that you're exposed to every single day, when you go in the ocean, not a big deal. You go in the ocean, they have a lot of RNA. That's where life came from, allegedly, is from the ocean. And you go anywhere in your travels and you're picking up B cell, T cell memories. Some you'll remember, others you won't, because they were not really significant at the time. And so sometimes the emerging infection or diseases are based upon somebody picking up something along the way of their travels, and it mixed in with not only their DNA but the population's DNA, and it developed another strain that was very aggressive. And so then you think about, whoa, the whole Sumerian pantheon and the Greek pantheon. And what was all these gods? I mean, you think about the celebrities. You think about the celebrities like Angelina Jolie, Johnny Depp, all the the A list, the B list, even the D list, like Kathy Griffin. Okay, they all have been bioengineered through specific genetic lines. You know, you might hear some of their background history, you might not. And if you were to look back, maybe if you look forward, like, you know, maybe 100 years from now, 200 years from now, and they want to develop a new Bible, a new, you know, pantheon. We call it the American pantheon. Okay, not the Greek pantheon, but the American pantheon. And let's say Socrates and all of that, Socrates was I don't know, discredited somehow, or Albert Einstein was discredited somehow. You know, all the people that we revere today just didn't exist anymore, and now we're taking people today and like Johnny Depp say, oh yeah, he's the god of multifaceted characters, and Angelina Jolie is the goddess of love and sex and I don't know, whatever else you want to say about them. You could create all these different characters and know that when you're playing with people's hormones, okay, when you're playing with people's hormones and you're playing with their microbiome, with their viruses or parasites or protozoa, proteins, fungus, and bacteria, and playing with their blood types, and you're doing a lot of CRISPR gene editing, yeah, you can create from the perspective of our society. What is beautiful is like symmetry and height and smoothness of the skin, and even certain cultures are more revered than others. I mean, you can develop the most perfect goddess and have like people like Jason Momoa, a god, right? He could be like the new god 100 years from now of the ocean or something. I mean, this is the kind of world that we are developing. Is we are revering people who are just like you and me. Okay? We're developing people for you to worship. So there really isn't, like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and Biden and Trump and all these people, they have been developed, they have been groomed, they have been put out there to portray an image, to portray a type of thing that people want to go and worship. And you have to realize that where religion came from, it came from giving different people skill sets, giving different people certain appealing aesthetics that you wish you had, but you didn't know that you know, obviously everyone comes from different types of genetics that have been nipped and tucked and advanced through biotechnology. People don't realize that everyone has been bioengineered in some way for a specific job, for a specific job. You could be an influencer and be like an Elon Musk and like a Jeff Bezos or like an Angelina Jolie or like a Brad Pitt. And you will have people who really don't know how this shit works will go and worship somebody. Okay? And when you realize that you are being controlled through your lymphatic system, you see people with big guts, right? You wonder, why does that person have a big gut? Why is it that guts, like people's stomachs, get bigger and bigger and bigger over a long period of time if that's what's in their predisposition? So you see the dad bods out there. Some people are really, really skinny and they're so emaciated, and you're wondering how the hell they're so skinny. Well, they're also dealing with T cells and B cells eating out from the inside. But on the other hand of it, there's people who are developing such large guts progressively over a period of time. Well, you're being controlled through your digestive system from your lymphatic system. And all the different medicines and the remedies, all the magic and the pharmaceuticals and all the different therapies have stagnated people's ability to discover their own potential. They have been pigeonholed, bioengineered to be a specific way, and when they're trying to get out of the jail of their own misery because they find their body declining, So they peaked in their lifetime at maybe 45, 50, and they start feeling the symptoms of MS and an autoimmune disorder or whatever, and they're miserable. And then what they once were able to do, they can't do anymore. They have to go and change their job and change everything about them. And then the system is steadily trying to do more therapies. That doesn't help them. It just gives them a little bit more time in what they're doing, but they're going to be steadily declining and declining. And that's what you're seeing, is people's bodies are developing so much infection and so much growth in their bellies because of the stagnation of their digestive system through their lymphatic system. And that is part and parcel to the drug industry, the home remedies industry, all the therapies, all the operations. And then they hold so many parasites. People are being eaten alive by their own lymphatic system and by their own microbiome. Because again, you're full of viruses, parasites, protozoa, proteins, fungus, and bacteria. And then people get these parasitic infections. And then people are assholes because they don't realize that they do hold the key to releasing the demons. But they have to first understand how to release the initial demons through their alimentary canal. And you can't possibly go with your hands and manipulate anything within your body. So you only have certain access to different parts of your body. The rest, your ability to understand the power of salt and water and food without overdoing it, without underdoing it, to allow your body to finally clear passageways so you can release those fucking demons that are in your body, get them down to your colon, and then release the floodgates. And that's the Pandora's box. That's the shit that they don't tell you in the medical holistic industry, because no, that's how they control not only your children and your children's children, that's how they control you and your very way of life and get you so dependent on everything. And then people have behavioral issues. They have addictions. They have cancer, disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders. And so the whole, the Rosicrucians, and the Rosicrucians isn't just one type of religion. It isn't just like, okay, it's just Egypt. Rosicrucians is a compilation of the Hermetics, the Christian Gnostics, the Jewish mysticism. It is, and I think, what is it? The Christian Gnostics are mostly out of Iraq or southern Iraq or whatever. But Jewish mysticism. Okay? Hermeticism. I don't even know what the hell Hermeticism. I mean, I read a little bit about it. But Rosicrucianism, which I learned about that actually when I was a kid, because I went to the Rosicrucian Museum over there in San Jose, California. That was one of the places that we visited when I was at Blue Hills Elementary in Saratoga, California, or San Jose, I forget. San Jose, Saratoga, Cupertino. They're all kind of like bordering each other. I lived on the borders of all of those. But when I was a kid, that's where we went to when we were in like 3rd or 4th grade. The Rosicrucian Museum. And I'm like, ooh, all the Egyptian stuff, the mummies, the tombs, the pharaohs, and this is really interesting. Antiquity hieroglyphs and hieroglyphics and all that stuff. And everyone wants to go to the pyramids and the Giza and all that stuff. And okay, I get it. But they hold a compilation. Oh, that's right. And Greek mythology, the Greek stuff too. So Rosicrucian is every single religion out there that is being put out there through politics, religion, and science. So many offshoots of the religions and the spirituality and all that, the New Age movement and everything. And then the Sphinx. That's what I discovered last night. Once I discovered that the holistic industry was also polluting our environment, then I discovered the Sphinx through the sphincter. Because somebody prompted me to really address why it is that they could not poop after doing so many waterfalls, when I told you guys, stop doing jelly juice every fucking day. You got to allow your body to absorb the nutrition. Stop freezing your body in the state that it's in by using so much J juice that you're going to have to deal with feeling the bloating. And then when I was doing so many J juice and I didn't realize to what extent was going on, I had to pull the poop out of myself. I had to actually get through past my sphincter. No, it's not glamorous. I didn't say this for the longest time. I kind of showed glimpses of it a couple of years ago when we were doing all the waterfalls in that one big 60,000 group. People were showing their poop. because they were releasing parasites. Everyone's looking at the poop going, ooh, look at that parasite, look at that parasite. But then I realized that I didn't have to do J juice and to get the poop because it wasn't going to help. And I was pulling that poop out on my own until my body was trained to release. And even then, when I was exposed to new viruses, my system would hold on to it. Like before I get my period or the day of or whatever, my system would hold on to stuff. I would feel bloated. And so then I found a way to manipulate my own stuff and get stuff out without taking chili juice to take off substance and take away intelligence. Because chili juice can add intelligence by allowing you to release the demons, but then it could put you in a very frozen state where you're not evolving, you're not absorbing nutrition, and you're just declining. It's not a bad thing. Salt water is not a bad thing, but it must be understood correctly. And so chili juice and salt water are supposed to be catalysts, not used as a cure like anything else out there that people use to stop things when they don't want to feel. And so when I finally got off the J juice, because I was just done with it, and I knew how to manipulate my own stuff to get the poop out without turning to anything like laxatives or whatever, that's where the intelligence increased. That's where everything finally came together. Because I dealt with the viruses and coughed everything out. I slept, I ate when I had the major sugar drops. And then I realized what the Sphinx was. It was the guardian of the treasures, the Pandora's box, the tombs. Those tombs hold so many viruses. And that's why you don't go into a tomb of ancient whatever, because you're getting viruses from years ago that you don't know what they're made up of. I mean, you can go in there and you can and you could be like someone like who's been on the J juice and understands how to deal with new viruses, but someone who has not been exposed to a new virus and who is immunocompromised, they will be destroyed by something aggressively new, something inside of a tomb of Egypt or any place else. And then the glaciers are melting. This is what you guys don't realize. Now with this whole climate engineering, everything is all simulation, right? Geoengineering, terraforming. And so ancient viruses are going to be released. The colon of Earth is going to be exposed. It's going to be opening up. The Pandora's box already was kicked open at the kickoff of 2019. Regardless of how you think this virus came about, the kickoff was 2019. It didn't get cemented and realized and formalized until 2020. But 2019 was the kickoff to one aspect of Pandora's box. And then everyone's infection and releasing all the antibiotics and everything they've ever done to themselves in reaction to whatever is now in the atmosphere, and it's being brought through panspermia, called the seasons, the rain. So panspermia is even a viable theory because that's what goes on. Whether it's geoengineering and people speculate about the chemtrails, right? Or it's the rains and the wind blowing people's lymphatic systems all over your town. So you can live somewhere over here and you can live somewhere over here and you can get the winds from, continents away. And so then you're like, well, shit, nothing sacred. And so the Pandora's box is going to be kicked open when the glaciers start melting. When you see the seas rising, okay, and you hear about it, some areas of the seas are taking over some of the shorelines. And so when the seas start rising, there's more viruses going to be exposed and put out there. And you could say that someone developed something and splice and dice, which, that there's also that, because we know biotech does stuff experimental because they're trying to develop therapies. And you don't know if it's a chicken or the egg yet again. Chicken or the egg. It's always the age-old argument. Who is the one that developed it first? Who is the one that kicked it off first? What was the catalyst? We know that physics is, for every action, it is equal to opposite reaction. But we already are in a simulation that happened, who knows when, where everything came from. It doesn't even matter. That's all the arguments of religion. It doesn't matter if the chicken came first or the egg came first. It doesn't even matter. The fact is that we are on a planet that has so many different B cells and T cells that are in the ocean, in the glaciers, in different people, in biotech. And then we have all the politics, religion, and science, and all the marketing and academia controlling people's hormones, controlling the way they think, controlling the what they do. And I understand that because we need order out of chaos. But we could still take a very base platform of order and infrastructure and give people the opportunity to move around within the society biochemically without being pigeonholed in a specific persona. That people don't have to die from cancer, disease, and chronic illness. They don't have to get all these crazy therapies from the industry when you know you're going to pass away anyways, because you already set that up in your mind, and then you're getting all these therapies that are going to accelerate it. Okay? But that's the thing, is when people say, I want to live, and then they do things that are completely opposite. You know, we don't have to think that way, but people do. Let me tell you, when someone is faced with their own mortality because of an accident, or they got diagnosed with something that's so aggressive, you know how quick people change their lifestyle, even change their belief systems. They find God or something. So people say, oh, I don't want to live forever. Bullshit. When you're faced with your own mortality, when you're faced with the fact that this could be the thing that could kick your butt or keep you alive or whatever, people change. And if it means that you have to go through an aggressive shift in your reality biochemically, and that usually is a diagnosable condition or a change in your abilities, that you used to be able to do this and now you can't anymore. People start changing the way they do things, but they get stuck in a specific state of being, and they get stuck in that rut until something shifts, and then they decline to the next level down. And then they're like, holy shit, I was okay with here being at this certain place, and now I've declined to this level. So in between, the transition between point A and point B, whatever it is, whether you're going up or you're going down, that's when you have to really start looking at the laws of life and the laws of death. So you can give yourself an opportunity, and instead of buying another repackaged therapy from the medical holistic system, now you have the ability to change your whole fucking direction in life. You don't have to go buy the next latest and greatest cure on the market, because you know that shit's being repackaged and packaged and repackaged and packaged over and over and over again, and the end result is still the same. People still fucking die, even though they say they want to live. And so that's what our whole society has been predicated upon, is on Anu, the Anunnaki, the anuses, the assholes. The ones that are fucking with all of your shit. Literally. And then you wonder how our society is always predicated upon shit and assholes and bathroom humor. Well, there you go. The sphincter, the sphinx, the Pandora's box, all the B cells and T cells, the mark of the beast, all the different things that all the different Christians were fearing from, and the whole, what is it, the Revelations, the end times people. Yeah. And who knows how many times we've gone over this. We're in a very specific simulation. We have a few generations that have been on this earth, and anything before the generations that are alive today, we have no idea to trust except for what's written. And even what's written is going to change in the future. But you got to be around long enough to see the changes. You already see that, science isn't settled. You see, we thought this, but now it's this. That's the transition between one lily pad to another, and justifying it without saying that somebody lied somewhere. Did somebody lie? You'll never know if somebody lied, or if they really truly did not know. You'll never fucking know. You won't even know, even in your own family, who knew what, when, where, and why, and how. You don't know people's intentions. If you don't even know your own husband or wife's intentions all the time, you might know a little bit, but you don't know every single bit all the time. People know certain things, but don't know everything about their husband and wives. So if you don't know everything about your husband and wife, how the fuck are you going to know what the government really is intending for you? How the hell are you going to trust some stranger on the street wearing a lab coat, or has a license, or somebody on Facebook? Now you got to learn how to trust yourself and understand physics. Now you got to teach yourself the basic foundations of this simulation. If you want to change the simulation, then you got to learn what it is that runs the simulation, and then do gradual changes. But let me tell you, people don't even want to know what's going on now in this simulation, and they're bitching about why they have cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and the politics and all this other shit. And I'm sorry, but you're going to have some kind of self-education, but you got to leave room biochemically for you to take in new information, because you have a lot of B cell, T cell memories torturing you with cancer disease, chronic illness, and autoimmune disorders, and food allergies, and everything else under the sun. And so it's a layer by layer programming, but it all resides in your gut and in your lymphatic system. But your gut's run by your lymphatic system, and your lymphatic system run by your gut. Both run each other. Actually, they play off each other. And then every other system is all playing off of those two systems. Because if you're not eating food, you're not reinforcing your heart's, muscles and the fat around your heart to protect it. If you're not eating, and then, so you're missing those nutrients. But if you are holding a bunch of conflicting B cell, T cell memories in your lymphatic system, then it's running your gut in a way that's not allowing you to maximize the nutrition in the food supply. And so you're not going to have a reinforced heart with adipose tissue and strong muscles and clear capillaries and vessels and all this other shit. And so you have to understand that your lymphatic system and your digestive system work hand in hand. And then every other system is taking cues from that. And so you have to, those two are the main things that you're being controlled. So that's why guys have big guts, because their exit points have been atrophied. And even though they're like, well, I never take any drugs and everything, but you're around people who do. You're around people who are taking all the different over-the-counter medication, prescription drugs, illicit drugs, and you're breathing in their microbes. You're breathing in all their different programming that has commandeered your system. And now you're like, why do I have constipation today? Maybe because you're around a person who has constipation and they're taking some kind of Imodium or who knows what else, or laxatives, and they're coughing all over you. And now you're taking on all their programming plus their own body's defenses against all that stuff. And so you're a mess. That's why we're in a Pandora's box. Every single drug out there in the market is out there in the fucking wind, and everyone's breathing it in. And when you get exposed to a weather or a people, you're taking on every single immune system, defense system in your community, and anything else that comes out overseas. Like when they're burning the bodies out there in India, because that's what they were doing when COVID was really a weird and ugly head. All that fire from India, from all the burning bodies, was making its way across the globe, through the jet stream, through all the different weather. And so then it was another panspermia, the raining down of all the different microbes with all different types of programming. So the New World Order is trying to now bring everyone together, and we're having a fight to the death microbially. Yeah, we're seeing stuff happen in Ukraine, but people need to just, over there, they either fight and die, or they run the hell away and save themselves and figure out how to hunker down until everything calms down. It's survival of the fittest at the very basic level in Ukraine. But microbially across the globe, you guys are fighting to the death. And you're also fighting the therapies market, because they have created so many antibiotic resistant microbes from people who are fighting against the things that they're taking in their body, that now they have created people to then fight off those microbes that are trying to stop them from absorbing this nutrition, because someone took some kind of oncological type of remedy that used a food protein, and now that food protein is causing allergies in people because they've taken on other people's microbes that were trying to defend itself against that oncology type of therapy. And so we are dealing with so much crap. We are in a cesspool of shit. And the sicker that your town is in, like the sicker your town is, the more you're going to be fighting. And I'm in a very sick town right now. A lot of people are dying around me, and they're holding cancer disease and chronic illness, and they are dealing with some shit. And I am working with it. It's not any better in California either, okay? Because people are, they don't even know that they're sick, but they don't even know it. You're seeing them lose collagen in their face. You're seeing them completely under the influence of cannabis. I mean, it happens here too in Ohio. Everyone's under the influence of cannabis, as well as alcohol and other distractions. California, the hub of the whole cannabis industry. The Green Triangle, Merced, and that other place, what is it? It starts with the H. In northern California, out there by Eureka, Humboldt, the Green Triangle out there, Everyone's under the fucking influence of drugs in California, the cannabis industry. And then they're going to the hospitals all the time, getting their prescription medication because they work hand in hand. And so you see the different types of how these B cells and T cells are cannibalizing people. You either feel it and you're coughing all the time and you're wondering why you're coughing all the time. That's what happens to some of these frontline workers here that work in the grocery stores. They're just coughing because they took on everybody's microbes. Whether or not you've had a V or not, it doesn't even matter. There's no therapy in the world is going to stop you from taking on so many different microbes with so many different programming. So if they're not actively releasing and retaining and staying out of the public, they will be hit with the onslaught of such diverse trillions and trillions of microbes that are going to work against them. And again, commandeer their system. And so I know what I'm up against. I'm building, a strength, a certain amount of resistance that's not completely resisting the environment, but I'm assimilating. But I'm also, my first, second lines of defense are working enormously. They're working effectively for me. That's why I cough and blow my nose, because my first lines of defense is working. It's through my sinuses. I just blew out like a green and red type of mucus ball. It didn't get past my first lines of defense. Okay? That you have to understand. If you're not working your first, second lines of defense, all that shit's going to get into you and it's going to cause infection and who knows what else. And so that's what also the therapy market has done, is they've atrophied your first and second lines of defense, dried you up, taught your body not to release at the way that it needs to. When I did the Jilly Juice for the first time a couple of years ago, I noticed a different amount of volume of pee that came out. When I did the waterfalls the first time, it was like, it burned too, because all of those B cells and T cells and the acids and everything else were fighting their way and causing infection and eating its way out from my body. But I was able to repair by eating the food that we had at the time. But I was feeling a sense of relief and a release, and then the brain fog left. I was actually calm. I wasn't full of anxiety. I was actually sitting thinking, look out my window going like, wow, that whatever had a hold of me is gone now. But that wasn't the end. Oh, I had a long way to go from that. And that's what I'm saying to you guys. This is going to be layers and layers and layers, and you have to set yourself up for this. But yeah, your sphincter is what needs to be figured out, because when you are dealing with constipation and when you're trying to release the demons through the J juice in some level, if relative to body mass index, and you're drinking a bunch of water and your body wants to hold on to stuff because it has certain programming to do that, because of all people in your society taking their drugs and whatever, then you're going to have to manually manipulate your asshole to get the shit out. And there is an instruction on how to do it. And so you might have to do that for a few years. You'll do that for probably forever until who knows when, but not all the time. Do I always have to do that? No, it just depends on what's going on. Sometimes stuff comes out just like that. Other times I feel like, whoa, shit, because there's so much stuff in the air. You have no idea what you're catching. And this is not glamorous. No, I'm completely tearing down any image I may have put out there, which I really have no image. I don't shake hands with people. I don't really touch anybody. I wash my hands, obviously take showers. Sometimes you do stuff in the shower that you have to do to get stuff out. But I'm telling you, you have to fight to get those little demons out of you. And these demons control your kids. They control their behaviors. They control you and your behaviors. They control your husband. They control your wife. They control everybody in your community. And some people go off the rails. Some people get triggered because those B cell and T cell memories are at the surface, and it just takes somebody saying something, or somebody getting in somebody's face, or somebody doing whatever, and then bam, or a memory comes up because of whatever, they dated somebody and it didn't work out and all whatever, and so now they're drowning themselves in alcohol and drugs. And they're proud of it. Or they're constantly on Facebook going like, oh my God, I wish I could do this. You feel the depression, the desperation. You can sense people are suffering. That they're trying to find a way to remedy their suffering by reaching out to everybody on Facebook, to gaining some kind of social capital, because that's what's going to get them through the most toughest time right now, whether it's custody with their children, to their own health issues, to their living situations, to food issues, to so many stuff, so much stuff. Okay, and so the ancients knew the sphincter was the entrance and the exit point. It was the place. That's where all the paths to 9 circles of hell. I can tell there's so many muscles in your sphincter. There's so many. And eventually you'll exercise that muscle to get everything out and push it out. You'll be breathing in certain ways. You'll be in weird positions trying to get to it, if you even can do that. Some people are too obese to do it. It's going to be very difficult. They're going to have to go through the torture of doing jelly juice, drinking water, and finding ways to get it out. They have to do enemas. But at some point, when you get to a point where you're able to deal with your shit, literally, without using any other intermediaries, then you will understand Dante's Inferno. You'll understand War and Peace. You'll understand the Greek pantheon, which is all the hormones that represent all those different gods. Gods, dogs, it's all bioengineered. It's negative and positive reinforcement to bring out love, 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 hate, 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 love. That's what the whole MK Ultra, CIA MK Ultra is creating, those types of archetypes. Marilyn Monroe was one of them. There's so many things that were done in the 50s and Disney and all that stuff to program people into specific jobs, into specific things, to, get them to be all nationalized and go to war and sacrifice himself. And there's been so much going on with all of the hormone manipulation. And then the drug use in the wars, putting them on amphetamines. Obviously, the Vietnam War, so much drugs. And it translated into the population, people doing the LSD and all the different stuff. And it's like, oh my God. Then the cannabis industry, then the old piece, the hippie generation. And then we now have the prescription drug market, over-the-counter drug market. Now we have legalized cannabis. And this is not coincidental, guys, okay? We're on a very specific order of operations here. But it's a conditioning. It is a long-term conditioning over centuries, over generations. Because you got to get the grandparents on board, to get the parents on board, to get the grandkids on board. And every generation reinforces all the programming. And of course, the genetic reinforcement, the genetic predispositions, what you've inherited from your parents. And then whatever traditional reactions to all your symptoms are going to be done from that point forward. And that's why kids are a mess. That's why some of these kids have no fucking chance, because their biochemistry is not going to allow them to rise any further than where they are today. And it's unfortunate, but it is very painful to transition out of that type of biochemical pigeonhole that people are in. And I was pigeonholed biochemically. I fought against it for fucking years. And I'll tell you, it was a battle. I battled the programming of my own immune system and battled the programming that was externally foisted upon me because of the world that I was in at the time, until I left that world and had to go figure it out for myself and learned a lot of hard lessons and survived them. Let me tell you, there were evil people in the past that I've come upon that I could have ended up human trafficked or whatever, and they cut me a fucking break. They could have done some horrible things to me, and they didn't. They're like, Jillian, when I was in this one situation, they're like, Jillian, you're searching for something. You're something, and I'm just like, and this is with a major alcoholic, criminal, didn't know it till later on. But I escaped that situation. I mean, it was bad it came to a head, but it never got bad enough where it was bad, but it didn't get bad enough where I would have been missing somewhere, trafficked somewhere. Okay? So I have figured out the hell, and I've learned from it. And whatever it is I put out there to different people, they were picking up on it, and they didn't use me for the things they could have used me for. Okay? Because I had to learn the hard way. And yes, the suffering is learning the hard way. And that you strategize yourself at every situation that is so aggressive. And that's what I've been doing, is strategizing myself through all of this crap, through the whole thing with the Jilly Juice. I had to strategize because I was being attacked left and right. You saw everything, all the court cases I've been in, all the shit that I had to deal with. But whatever, that's what is going to make you stronger, is dealing with the adversity of your own immune system and everything else that you have created from your own immune system. And sometimes you have to lose friends and family and associations and change jobs and maybe even change the way where you live and go move somewhere else. Change your name. Change your identity. Not everybody can do that. But that's sometimes what it takes for some people to do that. Okay, so all this whole thing with the gods and everything, it's dogs. Pavlov's dogs. Positive and negative reinforcement. Programming people through their biochemistry, through the lymphatic system, their digestive system. And then, at least in America, they give you a stipend because they figure that by the time you're 67, you're not going to really survive your retirement. So Social Security is only there as a safety net for when you finally can't perform anymore, because you have been under so much high performance drugs and other stuff that they know that eventually, you know, the average human in the US is not going to last long after their retirement because of how many drugs and things that they're under and therapies. But those on the JJ meta mentality, if you can get yourself set up to finally deal with this shit, literally, and you're in America, you can reinvent yourself and you'll still get Social Security. And so you'll be the lucky few to be able to see this. John is going to work, you know, he's in England and Odd, and all of you that are out there in Europe, you'll have your own ways of figuring how to strategize staying alive in this aggressive environment that's like Pandora's box. And the best is yet to come, because we still have climate change. And climate change, when all those ice caps are melting and all the new viruses are being put out there and you're going to have new therapies, you know what's going to happen. Don't fight against it. You know there'll be new therapies for all the new viruses that are going to be coming to surface. And so you'll be old hat at this. And you'll realize it's going to take a while to get your alimentary canal finally cleared, and you're feeding your body, reinforcing all your organs. And then when you do have to deal with constipation because of whatever infection is going on, and you have to eat a bunch of food and it's not releasing as fast as you want it without trying to take away your intelligence, you'll know you have to get past your sphincter. That's why you have a middle finger. Okay? That's why you have a middle finger. The universe gives you all of your digits and your hands and your mouth and everything for all survival. You were never taught how to use them correctly. But let me tell you, you know, I take a lot more showers nowadays, especially when I'm dealing with not that I don't take showers. I mean, when I wasn't that sick, I take a couple showers, like, you know, a week, maybe 3 or 4 showers a week. Because you don't get dirty. You know, when you feel icky, you take a shower. But when you're dealing with a new virus, not only are you coughing out stuff, but you're trying to get everything out of you. And then you wash up and you make sure everything is in its proper place, whatever. And you flush the toilet and all that stuff. And then you'll feel clean. You'll feel okay. But you got to know how to get everything out. Let me tell you, the showers and the baths and the bidets are going to be your friend during this time when you are fighting for your life. Because you have to get that toxic sludge out of you in some way, shape, or form. Without taking away your intelligence, without using laxative, jelly juice, or anything else. You have to get that sludge out of you. And when you're blowing your nose, you are now clearing the pipes. Not only your ear, nose, and throat, but all of your alimentary canal. And it'll help you poop too. And you have to exercise that sphincter muscle. That's the 9 circles of hell. Again. Or the 6 circles, whatever. But we're in some interesting times. But that is my strategy. That is what increased my intelligence tenfold. because I was able to maximize the nutrition in the food supply, take on the programming of the viruses without it taking me over and destroying me. And I fed my mind information that I wanted to learn about my world and how I was going to strategize, even how to write this, and then understand everything about cells and the universe and protons, neutrons, electrons, and all the different mechanisms at the most micro level, and then make the connections with the English language and understand all the politics, religion, and science. I mean, you saw how much I studied the last 5 years. First, I had to go and talk to my government, but then even after that, I had to go through the layer. I had to start from square one. I had my own university. It's called Jillian University, teaching myself, because I listened to my own videos. You happen to listen to them too. And so you steadily become clear and organized in your thought process when you understand everything compartmentalized, and then you see all the connections, and then you got to find the major connections. And yeah, the sphinx and the sphincter, and the viruses and the T cells and B cells, and then that's what drives people. That's what biotech, that's the whole point of biotech, is to control your lymphatic system and your digestive system. Okay? Now that you know this, now that you know that when you go out there, you're taking on not only other people's viruses, we're taking all their prescription medication and their over-the-counter medication, and it's gonna affect your own system. It's gonna affect you. And so it means that you can't be doing always J juice. Again, you take on that information, and if you're relatively, okay, and you don't have any major, you're not obese or so super underweight. When you're super underweight, you do a few J juice, and then you have to eat, and then you pull out the poop if you have to. If you're overweight, you do a bunch of J juice, but you'll be bloated, so you'll drink a bunch of water, try to offset and train your antidiuretic hormone not to always flare up. But it's going to take a minute when you're obese, because you're obese and you have so much water retention because you haven't been drinking enough water. You're eating salty foods, yes, but you're not drinking enough water. That's why people are obese. And so when you drink more water, you're now training your body to say, okay, you're going to hydrate it. Okay? And so you do a few Things of J juice, whatever, and you bloat, you drink water, and you get to a point where you can drink water and then get the poop out and blow your nose. I lost a bunch of weight when I was on the J juice. And I wasn't eating a lot either, so I'm not advocating not eating, let me tell you, no dieting. But at some point, you will be exposed to, well, you already are exposed. At some point, you have to deal with the stuff inside of you first before you understand how everything out there is going to affect you. I've dealt with everything inside of me first, right? And so when I get exposed to different people, it's not, when I get sick, it's not because of my dog. Someone said, oh yeah, your dog might have made you sick. No, I've been around my dog. I'm assimilated to my dog. My dog's assimilated to me. When we get exposed to my husband who comes off the road, bringing home everything from the road, or he hangs out with people who have issues or whatever, my dog and I both react to my husband because he's the main carrier of the microbiomes. Because I don't go out there. If I go to Walmart and I don't wear a mask, or if I'm in there for a while and even if I wear a mask, I might feel something, and my dog does too. But if there is a super aggressive variant, we feel stuff. Already I had a survey request, which I answered from the Carnegie Mellon University, and I answered it and said, they asked me if anything new came up. And I said, no, the only thing that was interesting, that was different than the other reactions to these viruses, is the heat that came through my head, but a little bit through my body. I felt a little bit of tingling in my body, but it was just like a little bit. It was kind of weird. It was weird. But that subsided, and then only just a tingling in my head. Okay? And that was it. And so that's what I said. I don't get the hives anymore. I only got hives through the Omicron. And that's when they're saying that, oh, everybody get an AIDS test. Because, AIDS is resurging. Because all it is just a virus that was put to sleep through people's immune systems, and it wasn't a highly influential environment, so it was staying asleep. But in a highly influential environment, everything that was put to sleep through a therapeutic or somebody's immune system is now going to be woken up, and the person's going to have to deal with it. And so whatever predispositions you hold that may have reared its ugly head down the line as your body was declining, it's going to be preempted by the energy of the new viruses and by the energy of the Wi-Fi, you know. Eventually we're going to go to 6G and 7G and 8G, and you're going to have to assimilate to the higher energetic environment. That's why people get EMF sensitivities, because they have the B cells and T cells within them. And so you have so many different memories within you. That's what makes you you. That's what makes you alive. But you have to align the programming. That's what's so important. You have to align the programming. And you have to assimilate. And again, when people are under so many different therapies out there, you're taking that on and you have to release it. But you will still assimilate to even a little bit of the data that they offer to you. So everybody out there can give you an amazing gift, which is their talents, their knowledge, their wisdom, their memories. But they also have defenses that they have taken that have used your food supply and your environment as a weapon against its own body. And then you have to also release that. That's the programming you don't want. It's somebody else's defense system against your food supply because they used wheat germ in oncology. You wonder where celiac came from? Why the hell would people be allergic to their own food supply? Because someone used it as a weapon against their body through oncology, through all the different therapeutics, causing a reaction, your body to fight against something trying to attack it. Okay? And so you keep people's gifts, and then your defense system releases the toxic defenses. And so, yeah, there are 3 components when you think about of someone's mucus. You get their DNA, you get their defense system, and then you also get some kind of viral upload, which is basically someone's defense. But really the virus is just the programming. You get the proteins. And so this is how you can level up in our side. But it's going to take a minute for a lot of you, because you have a long way to go. You saw what I had to go through. And you don't have to go through all that public bullshit that I went through. But you know you're going to have to go through headaches. You're going to have to go through feeding. You're going to have to feel the sugar drops. You're going to have to feel the rashes. People are taking all their different therapies, even J juice for all their rashes. No, you have to let everything express. My husband saw that rashes. He's like, oh my God. He didn't know what to think. He's like, what the hell? Yeah, well, you know, I was in California. I was exposed to all the different viruses in California, even here in Ohio. But I had a strong immune system, so it didn't really take a head. But I'm sure it was probably why I was having PMDD. But I'm not going to test for every single virus out there. And so when you do get exposed to a very aggressive variant, it's going to bring up symptoms that are going to look like so many different viral symptoms that people know about, that do therapies for it. And you're going to have to deal with it. But the more cures you partake in, the more therapies that you participate in and all that, you're just delaying the inevitable, and you're going to make it worse, because it's just going to incubate. And it's going to incubate, it's going to replicate and replicate and replicate. Your body's going to fight against your environment. You're going to be producing proteins that you probably can't afford to produce on that level when you're exposed. That's why the therapies market is so crazy, because your body is defending itself against the therapies. And it's also being triggered by the environment. The therapies are getting triggered, and your body's... So you're in one big war in your body when you're doing the therapies market. You got to cut down the skirmishes in your body, okay? You really got to. And that's why you have to release those B cells and T cells. And let your body's intelligence with the food supply and your desire to live, let that win out. All right. I'm going to go because I've talked a lot. But just so I figured out now how to talk about the Anunnaki and all the hominids. They're all genetic. They're all genetic simulations. Yeah, you can say, oh, hominid, Homo habilis, Homo this, Homo floresiensis, Homo... It's all genetic simulation. Oh, the bloodlines, Illuminati bloodlines. They knew this information. They kept it from you, and they kept it within the higher echelon, the Freemasons and all that stuff. Not a bad thing. It's all programming. You have to have a backbone of society. You have to have an order of operations. Some people who understand the order of operations know that this is this simulation, but there could be other simulations that'll be completely opposite and much better, but we have to go through this simulation, and you're going to be the ones to know this. You're not going to say anything, okay? And you'll be the one to program our society to act in a way, think in a way, do in a way, and whatever. And that's just like you bringing in your inner circle. Well, we know this stuff. Like with me and the Jilly Juice, I have people around me that are like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and we're not going to tell anybody out there. We're just going to keep it within ourselves. We'll talk about people, do this. I mean, yeah, I played the fucking games. I know. And so then, and that's the same thing as there's an inner circle within your society. You have your own inner circles where you say things to people that you wouldn't say to anybody else. And you're supposed to tell people stuff that you wouldn't tell anybody else. And that's the same thing that happens out there in politics, religion, and science. Okay? So what you do with your own circles of people is no different than what they do out there. So don't assume that, oh no, they're all benevolent, everyone loves this. Well, yeah, they think you're fine, but they're now saying, okay, you know, you are expendable. If you can't fight for yourself, we'll just use you and abuse you and throw you out when you can't do anything anymore. And then you allow it. So that's what I'm saying is what happens at the micro level within your own circle of influence, it happens at the macro level on a grander scale. Okay? So get your head out of your ass, you guys, and figure some stuff out. Set up your life appropriately to actually, I don't know, set up your life properly to figure out how you're going to survive this simulation. And you'll figure it out. I don't know how you'll do it, but you will. If you want to live. I mean, if you want to live. All right, bye.